Hey there, YouTubers. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. Today, we're going to really pick up where we left off. The engine's in the car, and we're going to do some, final little pieces, and we're going to get this thing to start for the first time. I've got a few things left to do, such as put belts on the power steering and the alternator, route the Burton Racing Coil and Plug harness. There's very minimal stuff that's required to start, such as oil, but we're really getting close. So let's go ahead and roll this intro and get this party started. So YouTubers, thanks for tuning back in. So as I mentioned, I've got quite a bit done. So let's go ahead and flip the camera and I'm just gonna walk you right through it. So boys and girls, the engine's obviously in the car here. We've got most of the, detrimental stuff situated. So the harness is in the car. It's routed back to the cabin. We have, on this particular OBD1, the charge harness is built into the actual engine harness. So we've connected our little starter jumper pieces. Everything's ready to go. If I put power to it, we still have our, hear that? We still have a brake stoplight switch that we need to swap out, which is over there. But for the time being, we've got fuel. We need to put some oil in it. We need to go ahead and get our power steering belt and a lot of this situated over here with our alternator. So that way it's ready to fire. Today, I'm also waiting on a gasket for our oil feed. So once that comes, we'll be able to stitch that up. And then we're back down here focusing on our intercooler kit. So this particular intercooler kit is an SRE intercooler kit. It's been available on eBay from a company, I believe it's located in California. It's prefabbed. It has a very nice design. It's bead rolled. It's 2.5 inches. It actually comes already flanged for a tile 50mm blow-off valve, which is what we wanted. It doesn't include any couplers. It doesn't include any clamps. So you have to pick those up separately. But I wanted to kind of mention this to you guys. There's a couple things that I'm dissatisfied with this kit. For one, it's advertised to be bolt up. Granted, the reason it doesn't bolt up, in my opinion, is because we don't have a stock intake manifold. We're now running this Edelbrock Victor X. On top of that, it's advertised for an EG-DC chassis. So that leads me to believe, again, stock manifold, whether it be a single cam or something, it should sit in a little different location. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So here, where our throttle body is, we're actually sticking too far out this direction, whereas a stock manifold, you would end about here. So what that does is it shifts everything else over. So whenever that happens, it also makes it stick further to the left. So if you can see here, the way that I've got this routed, it puts the intercooler to the passenger side of the car, which we would much rather it be in the center of the car, so that way it fills the bumper and it's a little bit more proportionate. But because the slightest small thing here kicked it to the left, that in return really made it completely dysfunctional, at least for the cold side here. The other theory I have is that an Edelbrock Victor X is a little bit shorter, so the manifold would normally be a little bit further back in the bay, which also makes this thing come further towards the front of the car. So we've got a few things that we can do here. We can cut it all to pieces and we can put couplers and T-bolt clamps on it, which is not what I want to do. Or we can find something to be able to modify it with and then re-weld it. So what I've done is I've reached out to my buddies at FabMD, and if time allows, they're going to help us out and they're going to take care of it. So they're going to make it fit. But in order to do that, what I need to do is mount the intercooler where it needs to go. So a third possibility is a completely brand new kit. So that's still something that could potentially happen. Another friend of mine has something here local, so I'm waiting to hear back there. One of the three is going to be the path forward. I'm leaning more towards fabbing this kit to fit. We already have a lot of couplers. We already have a lot of T-bolt clamps. So a lot of that's going to be able to be reused, but we should be able to have an answer by the end of this video. So let's just keep on moving. A couple things unique about this car that I've not done to the previous builds is an AN line conversion. What you do is you take a tube union, which is 5/16, to a -6. You order an inline filter, your supporting connectors, and then fuel rated 6 AN line, and then you bolt it to an aftermarket rail. This one in particular is all just literally finger tight. So we need to do a final nut and bolt check before we actually fire it up. But this eliminates the fuel filter from the stock location and the stock filter, gives us quite a bit more room, and it adapts properly if we ever want to upgrade to a different rail or something along those lines. It makes it really quick and easy. It also eliminates the fact of needing those little crush washers and some of that stuff that's on a factory feed line. The other thing here is, again, one of our buddies had one of these vented valve covers already sitting around. So we picked this up a while back and you guys saw me wrinkle it. This already has 10 AN bungs in it, so basically from that point, I bought a catch can line kit off Amazon. They're around $65. It comes with 20 foot of line. It comes with 6 different connectors. So you get 2 90s. You also get 2 45s, which is what we used over here. And then you get 2 straights. So between that, I have a surplus of excess stuff. And then I have some extra lines and nonsense floating around too. So with all of that, you're left to buy whatever catch can you want separately. This is just a generic. It's around $30. It's got a breather port on top. It's got 2 10 AN bungs. And then down here on the bottom, we've got our drain. So little petcock twist drain here. That should work out well. This is a B20, so it doesn't have, a factory charcoal canister on the back of it. That's already been plugged. So it's, prime candidate and already set up most part for this. So the other thing that we've got to do is our exhaust. Once the intercooler kit's in place, we have the option to go back to the bumper. If we go back to the bumper, then that's going to require us to route back through here. And as you can see, the cold side piping is kind of in the way. So we have a very minimal area to work with here. And I'm a little concerned. So I believe we're going to go back underneath the car so that way it can eventually be connected to a full exhaust if that's what the new owner decides to do. That's going to require us to find a new bumper, which isn't going to be a bad deal because this one's cut up. It's also going to require us to have less heat and, more, heat and pipe focused around what we're trying to keep cold here because this is the cold side of the intercooler. The other thing that we got situated was our fuel return. We're still on a rubber hose fuel line here. So this goes back down here to the factory location. We've teed in our vacuum lines. We still need to route our hard lines once all this stuff is situated. So we'll tap our wastegate and our blow-off valve. We've already got everything plumbed on the manifold. Our throttle cable is now in place. What I had to work with was an LS B18 to PR4 P75 cable. That's all I had to begin with. So I had to get a little creative and I just cut it in half and added some extra to it and then drilled some new holes. So we've got great slack whenever we need a little bit more adjustment for fine tune because this doesn't have like a throttle mixture screw. Other than that, I believe this is going to work out perfect. The piping is actually shoved a little too far inside the throttle body right now where I was doing a lot of mock-up, so it won't open all the way, but we'll fix that here shortly. Guys, inside the car, it's got a factory SI cluster. It came with a boost gauge, which I already teed in. You might have saw that off the fuel regulator. We're going to hope that that's already connected. If not, whenever I fully put power on and install that brake light stoplight switch, then we'll diagnose that. But this is where our wideband is going to go for PLX. We're going to route all the box and everything over here and probably put it in the glove box. We've also got our ECU that we've installed our Burton Racing components into for coil and plug. It's also got boost by gear. So we're going to wire in our Burton Racing boost by gear harness to the ECU. and we're going to get all that situated. So this is going to be a pretty lengthy video. Probably time lapse some of it, and then probably do like, you know, some music overlay and fast forward so you guys don't get bored. But the ultimate goal is by the end of this video, this puppy's going to run for the first time. It's not going to have an intercooler kit, but we're going to have a path forward and a plan. And then we can start working on the exhaust and then wherever we need to mount the intercooler. So let's go ahead and roll the progress here. Roll the progress. Let's go ahead and get started. So boys and girls, I've made quite a bit of progress and decided not to do a time lapse. So at this point, I've managed to connect the intercooler. Our power steering belt is a little bit long, so we're going to need to run to the parts store for that. Our alternator belt is secured and adjusted. From here, we need engine oil. The Burton harness kit is plugged in. Over here at the distributor plug, you need to run one of the actual plugs in for power. And this one is what I did here, and I heat shrinked it. So this runs to power. This is an OBD2B car. So the actual RPM signal we didn't need, so we taped it back here because it gets it from the ECU. The other thing was that we needed to go ahead and route it to the engine bay, or from the engine bay into the cabin. So I'm going to pull the battery back out here, and we're going to do that. But we need to run to the parts store and get some oil, and then get a smaller belt. And then we're going to go ahead and start working on putting the radiator in, getting this routed into the cabin, and building a dump tube and a downpipe. So we got a little bit of work to do here, and hopefully it'll pay off in the near future and we can actually hear this thing start. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, here, big guy. Where do you want the O2? You want it up here? You want it down here? Whereabouts? Somewhere in this vicinity be okay? Hey, does the flame retardant stuff, like that heat wrap that I wrap the downpipe with, does that have fiberglass in it? Because I got something all in my hands and I got glue all over them trying to get it out, but any ideas? That's all, folks. Stick around, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll be headed to the dyno after we tie off a few loose ends. Make sure to give this video a like and share it around to all your buddies.